Story 1. The door I know I locked. I used to live alone in a small 2-bedroom house on the edge of town. Nothing about the house was particularly unusual. It was an older place, built sometime in the 70s, with a narrow driveway, a small backyard, and a basement that I mostly used for storage. The neighborhood was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that feels peaceful exactly. More like the kind where you notice every sound because there aren't many other sounds competing with it. I'd lived there for almost 3 years, and in all that time, I'd never really been afraid of the house. I knew every noise it made. The heating system clicked when it turned on. The kitchen pipes rattled sometimes. The wooden stairs creaked in the same 2 places, and whenever the wind was strong, the back door made a soft knocking sound against its frame. It was all normal, familiar, safe. At least, that's what I thought. This happened on a Friday night in November. My girlfriend was visiting her sister for the weekend, and I had decided to stay home. I ordered pizza, watched a movie, had a couple of beers. Nothing exciting. Around 11:30, I went upstairs to brush my teeth. As I walked past the front door, I noticed something. The deadbolt was unlocked. I stopped. I stared at it. For a second, I couldn't remember if I'd locked it. I usually did. Always. But I'd gone outside earlier that evening to grab something from my car. Maybe I'd forgotten. I turned the lock. Click. Then I checked the handle. Locked. I laughed at myself. "You're getting paranoid," I said out loud. And I went upstairs. About 20 minutes later, I heard something downstairs, a soft sound like something being moved across the kitchen counter. I stopped brushing my teeth. I listened. Nothing. I waited. Still nothing. I looked toward the hallway. The house was dark. I turned off the bathroom light and went downstairs. The kitchen was empty. I checked the living room. Nothing. The back door was locked. The front door was locked. Everything looked exactly the same. I stood there for a few seconds. Then I noticed my keys. They were sitting on the kitchen counter. I normally kept them in a small bowl beside the door, but I remembered taking them out of my pocket earlier, so again, I had an explanation. I probably moved them. I just didn't remember doing it. That was all. I went back upstairs. Around midnight, my phone rang. It was my girlfriend. She asked if everything was okay. I told her I was fine. Then she said something that made me pause. Did you lock the back door? Yeah. You sure? Why? She hesitated. Because I thought I heard someone outside. I laughed. You're at your sister's house. I know. Then you're probably hearing something over there. Maybe. We talked for another minute. Then we hung up. I went downstairs again. I checked the back door. Locked. I checked the windows. Locked. Then I walked through the entire first floor. Nothing. I went back upstairs, and that's when I heard it. 3 soft knocks from downstairs. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. It wasn't the front door. It came from somewhere inside the house. I stood in the hallway, listening. Then, nothing. I slowly walked down the stairs. Halfway down, I heard another sound, a floorboard behind me. I turned around. The upstairs hallway was empty. I stared at it for several seconds. Then I told myself it was the house settling. Old houses make noises. That's what I kept thinking. I reached the bottom of the stairs and stopped. The basement door was open. I knew I'd closed it. I always closed it. The basement was unfinished and cold, and I hated leaving the door open because the cold air came upstairs. I stood there staring at it. The door was open about 6 inches. I didn't want to go downstairs, but I also didn't want to admit to myself that I was afraid. So I walked over, I pushed it open. The light switch was right beside the door. I turned it on. The basement was empty, boxes, old furniture, a washing machine, nothing else. I walked down a few steps, then stopped. I heard something, a very quiet sound, breathing. I held my breath. The sound stopped. I waited. Nothing. I turned around and went back upstairs. I locked the basement door. Then I moved a chair underneath the handle. It felt ridiculous, but I did it anyway. I went back upstairs. I tried to sleep. About 20 minutes later, I heard my front door open. Not the lock, the actual door. Slowly. I sat straight up in bed. I didn't move. I listened. A soft creak, then another. My heart started beating faster. I reached for my phone. I called 911. I whispered my address. The dispatcher asked if someone was inside. I don't know. Then I heard footsteps. Downstairs. One step, then another. Slow. Careful. I stayed completely still. The dispatcher told me to stay in my room and lock the door. I did. Then I heard the footsteps stop. Right beneath me. I was on the second floor. The person was standing directly below my bedroom. I could hear something moving. Then a floorboard creaked. The person started walking again, toward the stairs. I held my breath. The footsteps came closer, then stopped. Right outside my bedroom door, I stared at the handle. Nothing happened. For several seconds, nothing. Then the handle moved, very slowly. I heard the lock click. The door didn't open. I'd locked it. The person tried again. Click, click. I covered my mouth with my hand. The dispatcher was still on the phone. Then I heard a voice. Hey. It was a man's voice, calm, almost casual. Are you awake? I didn't answer. The handle moved again. Then the man said, I know you're in there. That was the moment I realized something. He hadn't just broken into my house. He knew exactly where I was. The police arrived less than 5 minutes later. I heard them shouting downstairs, then footsteps, then more shouting. I stayed locked in my room until an officer came upstairs. They found the man hiding in the basement. He had entered through a small window near the back of the house. The window hadn't been broken. He had somehow forced it open. The officer asked me how long I thought he had been inside. I said I didn't know. Then he told me something I'll never forget. The basement door hadn't been opened from the outside. The man had been hiding downstairs. He had been there long enough to know my routine. He knew when I went upstairs. He knew when I came back down. He knew exactly where I slept. And apparently, he had been inside my house for almost an hour before I ever realized anything was wrong. To this day, I still think about the first time I heard that sound in the kitchen. The keys on the counter, the basement door, the footsteps. I kept explaining everything away, because admitting that something was wrong would have meant admitting something much worse. That I wasn't alone. The scariest part isn't wondering what he wanted. It's wondering how long he had been standing in that basement, listening to me move around my own home before I finally realized he was there. Story 2. Mom, there's someone upstairs. My wife was away for 3 nights. Our son was 7 years old at the time, and I remember thinking that taking care of him alone would be easy. It was our house, our neighborhood, our routine, nothing unusual. The first night was completely normal. We ordered Chinese food. My son watched cartoons while I cleaned the kitchen. Around 9, I checked all the doors. Front door locked. Back door locked. Garage closed. Everything was fine. My son went upstairs around 10. I stayed downstairs for another hour. Then I heard him call my name. Dad? Yeah? Did Did Mom come home? I laughed. No. There was a pause. Then he said, I thought I heard her. I looked upstairs. Probably the neighbors. He didn't answer. A few seconds later, I heard his bedroom door close. I didn't think anything of it. Kids hear things. They imagine things. That's what I told myself. The next morning, I noticed something strange. The front door was unlocked. I immediately assumed I'd forgotten to lock it. I didn't think much about it. That night, I locked it again. Then I checked it twice. At around 11, my son came downstairs. He looked tired. What's wrong? Nothing. Then why are you awake? He looked toward the stairs. Someone keeps walking upstairs. I stared at him. What? He pointed. Up there. I listened. Nothing. Nobody's upstairs. He shook his head. Yes, there is. I walked him back to his room. I checked every closet, under the bed, the bathroom. Nothing. I showed him. See? He nodded, but he still looked scared. I asked him why. He whispered, because I heard them stop outside my door. I didn't know what to say. I told him it was probably the house. He didn't argue, but he didn't look convinced either. That night, I left the hallway light on. Around 1 a.m., I was downstairs watching television. My son was asleep. Then I heard footsteps upstairs, slow, heavy, one step at a time. I turned off the TV. I listened. Step, step, step. I stood up. Buddy? No answer. I walked toward the stairs. Then my son screamed, Dad! I ran upstairs. He was standing in his bedroom doorway. His face was pale. What happened? He pointed toward the hallway. Someone was standing there. I looked. Nobody. Who? I don't know. Did you see them? He nodded. Just their back. My stomach tightened. I checked the entire upstairs. Nothing. I went downstairs. I checked the doors, the windows, the garage. Everything was locked. I told myself we were both tired. Maybe he saw a shadow. Maybe the sound was the heating system. But then, I noticed the back door. It was open, just a few inches. I stared at it. I knew I'd locked it. I was certain. I shut it, locked it. Then I called the police. They arrived and searched the house. Nothing. No one was found. The officer checked the door. There was no damage, no broken lock. Nothing. He told me it might have been a faulty latch. I wanted to believe him. I really did. The next morning, I found something. There was a muddy footprint on the kitchen floor. One footprint, right beside the back door. I stared at it. My son walked into the room. He looked down, then looked at me. Dad? Yeah? That's the person. I felt cold. What person? The one upstairs. I asked him what he meant. He pointed toward the footprint. He had shoes like that? I didn't sleep the next night. I kept my son beside me around 2:30 a.m. We heard something, a sound from upstairs, a drawer opening. I grabbed my phone. Then my son whispered, Dad? I looked at him. Don't go upstairs. I didn't. We stayed completely silent. Then, a floorboard creaked. Right above us. Then another. Someone was walking around upstairs. I called 911. The dispatcher told us to leave through the front door if we could. I grabbed my son. We ran! The police arrived. They searched the house. Again. Nothing. But this time, they found something. A small window in the upstairs bathroom was unlocked, and there was dirt on the outside sill. The officer looked at me. Has anyone else been in the house? No. Are you sure? Yes. Then he asked my son where he had seen the person. My son pointed toward the stairs. The officer followed his finger. Then he looked at me. Your son said the person was standing here? Yes. The officer walked upstairs. A few minutes later, Chichia, he called me. They had found a small space above the garage, an unfinished storage area. There was a blanket inside, several empty water bottles, and a flashlight. Someone had been staying there. We never found out exactly who, but the officer believed the person had been entering through the upstairs bathroom window, and that's when I remembered something. The first morning, the front door had been unlocked. The second night, the back door had been open, the footsteps, the bedroom door, the muddy footprint, my son saying someone had stopped outside his room. None of those things were random. Someone had been inside our house, and my son had noticed it before I did. I still think about that sometimes. He was 7, I was the adult. I was supposed to keep him safe, but the person hiding in our house had been watching us, listening to us, moving around while we slept. And the worst question is, how many nights had he been there before we ever noticed? Because if my son hadn't heard those footsteps, we might never have known. Story 3. Someone was in the house. The last story happened to me when I was 24. I had just moved into a small apartment after getting a new job. It wasn't a great apartment, but it was cheap, and it was close to work. The building had 4 floors. I lived on the 3rd. There was one main entrance, a locked parking garage, and a hallway that connected all the apartments. I lived alone. At first, I loved it. I could come home whenever I wanted. Nobody bothered me. Nobody asked where I was going. It felt safe. Until the night I came home early. I usually worked until 6. But one Tuesday, my manager sent everyone home around 4. I decided to surprise myself with an early dinner. I stopped at a grocery store, bought some food, then went home. The moment I opened my apartment door, I knew something felt wrong. Nothing was obviously different. The furniture was where it belonged. The lights were off. Everything looked normal. But the apartment felt occupied. I stood in the doorway for several seconds. Then I laughed at myself. I had been working too much. I went inside. I noticed the bathroom door was open. I always kept it closed. But that wasn't unusual. Maybe I'd left it open that morning. I dropped my keys on the counter, then went to the kitchen. A few minutes later, I heard a sound. From the bedroom. A soft creak. I stopped. I listened. Nothing. I walked toward the bedroom. The door was closed. I opened it. Empty. I checked the closet. Nothing. I told myself the building was old. Walls make noises. Pipes make noises. Everything has an explanation. That evening, I went to bed early, around 11 o'clock. I heard something from the hallway, a quiet knock. I sat up. Then another. I looked toward the front door. Someone was knocking. I didn't answer. The knocking stopped. Then, I heard the door handle move. Very slowly, I got out of bed. I walked to the living room. I looked through the peephole. Nobody. I waited. Nothing. I checked the lock. Locked. I went back to bed. The next morning, I found my bedroom window open. Just a few inches. I never opened it. I was certain. I closed it, locked it, and went to work. That afternoon, I came home. The front door was locked. Everything seemed fine, then I noticed something. My bedroom closet door was open. I knew I'd closed it. I walked over. Inside, nothing. I started feeling stupid. Maybe I was forgetting things. Maybe I was more tired than I realized. That night, I decided to stay at my friend's apartment. Before leaving, I checked everything. Front door locked. Windows locked. I even took a photo of the locked bedroom window. I don't know why. Maybe I just wanted proof that I wasn't imagining things. The next morning, I came home. The front door was still locked. But the bedroom window was open. Again. This time, I knew I hadn't done it. I checked the photo. There it was. The window, closed, locked. I called the police. They searched the apartment. Nothing, no one. The officer told me the window might have a faulty lock. I showed him the photo. He looked at it, then said, "Do you have somewhere else you can stay tonight?" I did. I stayed with my friend. The next day, I returned with the landlord. We checked the window, then the closet, then the entire apartment. The landlord opened a small maintenance panel behind the closet and stopped. There was a narrow space between my apartment and the neighboring unit, a service area, dark, dusty, and large enough for someone to crawl through. I stared at it. Then I noticed something. The dust on the floor had been disturbed recently. The police were called again. This time, they searched the entire building. They found a man in the basement. He had been living there, sleeping behind a row of storage units. The police believed he had been entering apartments through maintenance spaces. He had been watching people, stealing small things, and sometimes just moving things around. The officer told me they couldn't prove he had entered my apartment, but they found something in his belongings, a photograph. It was a picture of the hallway outside my apartment, taken from inside the building. The photo was blurry, but my apartment number was visible. I moved out 2 weeks later. I never went back. The part that stays with me isn't the window or the photograph. It's the night I heard the door handle move. I was standing maybe 10 feet away. On the other side of the door, I thought there was a stranger trying to get inside. But what if I was wrong? What if he was already inside? What if the bedroom door had been closed because someone had just stepped out of the room? What if the sound I heard from the bedroom wasn't the building settling? What if it was someone moving? I still think about that. Because for weeks, I had been living alone, or at least I thought I was. And every night when I went to sleep, I believed I knew exactly who was inside my apartment. Me. But I didn't, not really. And even now, whenever I walk into an empty room, I don't immediately look for what's there. I look for what's been moved. A door that's slightly open, a window that's unlocked, a chair that's a few inches out of place. Because sometimes, the first sign that someone has been inside your home isn't seeing them. It's realizing something is different and knowing you didn't change it.